Hello, have you ever thought about purchasing some land? Getting out there to the wild beyond, the nice, beautiful, lush green grass and seeing the nature at its very best? Well, before you buy that land, today I would like to share with you some tidbits that I've learned in my experience in purchasing land. So stay tuned and let's talk about some questions that you should ask yourself before you buy that piece of land. So you've decided to invest in some property. Now today I'm going to talk about mainly just buying raw piece of land and whether you want to use it for building your new dream home or whether you just trying to build a homestead or you just want to do some raw land for its investment. First question that you got to ask yourself, why do I want this land? That's the first question. What's the purpose? Do I really want this piece of land to build my homestead? Or maybe I just want this raw piece of land to grow a garden? Or maybe I just want to grow some cattle or what have you. So ask yourself, the first question that you have to ask yourself is, why do I want this land? What's the purpose? Because that's going to be the determining factor of how you move forward from that point on. Now, all of these questions are not put in order as far as which one is more important than the other. I feel like all of these questions are very important and there's no one right or wrong way to address some of these questions, but I do believe that they are very important and I wish someone would have shared some of these things with me. Just to kind of give you a little history, I'm not a real estate agent. I don't profess to be a real estate agent, but I have experience in life and I've purchased land far as raw land to build my home. I've also purchased land that already had existing home. And I've also purchased just raw land, untouched, never been planted on, nothing. It's just natural land. So I just want to share some things that I learned along the way that hopefully it can be helpful to you. The next question is location. I know you hear when it comes to real estate, location, location, location. Location is always important when it comes to real estate. If you're thinking about actual homesteading, accessibility, where are you located? Are you far outside of town? Do you have medical conditions? Is this something where you do have access to a medical facility? What type of amenities around your area do you have? If you're thinking about homesteading, you're thinking about growing cattle, you're thinking about timber, if you're using that land for timber, how close is that sawmill? How many miles would I have to transport my animals to a hospital? Or is there a veterinary facility or mobile facility available in that area? Just think about all of those different things as far as land usage. If it's hunting, what are the requirements in that area? Another question you want to ask yourself, amenities. What type of amenities do this piece of property have? Does it have electric, water, sewage? Is it a well? When was the well built? How long was that well put in place? You're going to have to get it inspected. Yes, get it inspected. If it's already been there, it's been handed down throughout the years. Make sure that it's up to code. If it's not, you're going to be responsible for bringing up the code. So all of those different things you want to consider before. Go out there and check your phone. Am I getting a signal? If you're doing YouTubing or if your business is remote or if you're working at a job, you're working remotely, think about the access. What kind of amenities do that property have access to infrastructure as far as telephone line, Wi-Fi communication, fiber optics? Think about all those different things. Some things you may have to sacrifice if you're trying to go off grid or what have you. So those are some of the things you want to consider. Another question is, am I paying too much for that piece of property? Is this piece of property valued at a good price? How long has it been on the market? Has it been on the market a long time? Now, a lot of cases you can't compare land time as far as being on the market, as far as how many days, depending on the area. Most of the time, land is on the market a whole lot longer than actual real estate as far as a house far as some type of infrastructure, some type of building that's on that actual land. So typically, in most cases, not all, depends on your area. Some cases, land is just booming. So just make sure that you look at how long it's been there, because that can help you in some negotiation tactics that you want to do when you're getting ready to negotiate for the price. It's okay to utilize a realtor. Do you want to use a realtor? You have to make that determination. If you're not familiar with buying land, make sure you find a realtor that's experienced, not just selling homes, not just residential lots in communities, but raw, untouched land. Make sure that realtor has shown and proven experience where they know how to actually buy and sell raw land, because they're going to give you some insight about some things that a standard residential realtor may not be aware of, or they may not have that experience. Not to say they can't do it, by no means, but just take your time and make sure you find someone who's very knowledgeable. And then ask them to run a CMA, comparative market analysis, to make sure you're getting the best deal. Make sure you are looking at what are the recent sales in that area. And so that can give you a measure system to help you with deciding whether this piece of property is valued and priced at the right price or not. Another question: what type of natural resources do that property have? Does it have a stream? Does it have all kinds of woodland area? Is it marsh area? Find out what type of resources does that piece of property have. That's very important. You want to go out there and take a look at the land. Once you let the owner know that you would like to tour that land, or you reach out to the realtor, get a good look at the land. Make sure you understand that actual land. Another thing, title search. A title search. Make sure that you get with a real estate attorney or someone who deals with the closing, that they can run that title search to make sure that's a valid title. That whoever you're buying that land from, they have a clear title. Make sure there's no liens on that title. When they do a title search, they're going to tell you whether there's liens on that property or not. That's vital. That's so important. And now let's talk about the money. How are you going to pay for this land? Do you have the cash to pay for this land up front? If you do have the cash, you still want to do all of these things I'm listing out. You want to do these things even if you have the cash, because you want to do your due diligence before you get into a long-term commitment. Now the land, if you're paying cash, that's one avenue. Some people, they finance. Keep in mind, if you're financing, a lot of banks may not lend or do loans for raw land. Some of them, they want a physical structure there. They want an actual either a building, commercial, as far as commercial building, or lean-to shed. They want something where it has some type of accessible value to it. Now, where you can reach out to some of your local farm credit unions. There's a lot of different farm bureaus that do lending. So sometimes you may have to get a little creative when it comes to financing. And typically you're going to need 20% or more as far as a down payment, versus like a FHA, you might need 3.5%. With land, the risk to a lender is a little bit higher, that raw land. So they want to get a good deal as far as 20%. So 20% is not uncommon if you put down. So if it's a $100,000 piece of property, you're going to probably put down $20,000 or more. That's really not uncommon. And when I purchased my last piece of property, it ranged around 6%. So another thing, your interest rate may be just a tad bit higher than the going interest rate for raw land. Those are things you want to keep in mind. It may not be the current interest rate, depending on your credit, depending on the situation. I'm just sharing some of the things that I've experienced and multiple times in me acquiring land. Owner financing. Owner financing is a great way to get your foot wet, to get in there. And a lot of cases, land owners, that's how they acquire their land, through owner finance. The thing is, with owner finance, there's multiple things you need to be aware of. Make sure that you somewhat have a good feeling about getting into this business relationship with this person, whether it's on a long term or short term. And make sure that you get this attorney to draw up the papers far as this lend. Don't go on word of mouth. Don't go on gestures. Document, document, document. Another thing, if you can, talk to the landowner and try to be responsible. Be the payer of that property tax. You be the one to go down to the county or mail in that property tax, and you pay it. That way you know it's current. You always know that those taxes are getting paid, because that's very important, because there could be a tax lien if it's delinquent, and here it is, someone can come behind you and own that land. Real estate attorney. That's why it's so important to get you a good real estate attorney and make that determination, where sometimes you might not need a realtor, but you got a great real estate attorney, because they can kind of do that dual role. So it's very viable that you have some type of professional in this process. Find out how much are the property taxes. That's key. Property taxes. You want to know, how much will I be paying every year for property taxes? Typically, property taxes go out in November and you pay for that year. So you want to make sure that you have enough. And sometimes during closing, you want to have enough to go ahead and pay for that year, because sometimes that's required to go ahead and pay a year in advance for those property taxes. Just make sure you check with your city, your county, and your local to get a good understanding with your property appraiser office, to make sure you got a good understanding. Is the land under any type of easement? Oh my goodness, that is so important. Are there any easements? Some easements, and what easements are, other parties having access to your property, and they have the right to do that. So sometimes you have conservation easements. You have your land may be blocking access to another landowner, and they may need access to it. They may not be living there at this time, but in the future they may need access, and they have to go through your land as far as a driveway or to gain access to your property. Are there power lines? People going to be needing access to get to those power lines. Underground, it could be fiber optics. It could be any type of gas line. You could have